Open Studio is back. Today we're going to talk about how to humanize your beats. Thing I find with a lot of laptop producers is that when they have to manually click in their MIDI notes when they're doing their drum programming, their beats sound extremely too quantized, too stiff, not groovy, not good. The point of making a beat is to get people dancing, get people's hips moving, get people's heads nodding. These kind of unconscious bodily reactions are the result of swing and groove. Swing and grooves are subtle variations in velocity and timing that give beats their character. So today I'm going to help you improve the swing and groove of your programmed MIDI percussion. We're going to do this in a few different ways. We're going to start by extending your clip length and adding accent notes as turnarounds. Very simple, but very effective. We're then going to move on to manually shifting MIDI notes forward and back in space and time. We're also going to look at manually adjusting the velocities of notes. From there, we're going to look at Ableton's groove pool and go into how to apply a groove to an existing quantized MIDI selection, MIDI clip. From there, we're going to look at how to extract a groove from another audio source and apply it to your programmed quantized MIDI. From there, we will just kind of massage our clip and make sure it sounds cool. By the end of this video, you should have a really good understanding of how to make beats that move and move your listeners. We know that the professionals make their beats groove and swing, and there are a lot of ways to do it very easily if you know what to do. So let's get going. I have got a very basic 909 core kit loaded up, and we are going to program some drums. I'm going to begin with a very basic 4 on the floor kick pattern. Maybe just to keep things really simple, we'll do snare on 2 and 4. I would like just really quickly to change that snare a tiny bit. And while we're here, why don't we put in some hi-hats? So we'll do a closed hi-hat. And why don't we just put that across? So our very rudimentary 1 bar beat sounds like this. Pretty basic and pretty bad. No groove, no swing, just straightforward clicked in notes. So off the bat, I would say that this loop is just too short. It's 1 bar. So what I would do is make this into a 4-bar loop. Generally, phrases in Western music go in kind of multiples of 4. So we'll start with 4, we'll add some variation, then maybe we'll extend our loop length to 8 and add a turnaround at 8 bars. At that point, maybe we'll even go for 16 bars, who knows, but let's start with 4. So over here in the clip length, I just typed in 4 and pressed enter, and now we've got a 4-bar clip. I'm going to highlight everything we've done from the very beginning to the end of the first bar. See, all of these MIDI notes are highlighted. I'm now going to press Command D and duplicate them over 3 times. So now we have our exact same 1-bar loop, but it's going for 4 bars. So we've got this. Pretty bad. But now is when we're going to start to add some variation. So I'm going to start with some accent notes in the kick realm. Maybe 1 there, 1 there, and then let's do 1 there, and then 1 there. So now our kick drum has some variation. It's not just doing a straight 4 on the floor, it has some pickups and a little turnaround here at 8 bars. So let's hear what that sounds like. Okay, that's something. Maybe we'll add a clap to just every 4. And that's going to just double every other snare, basically. It's a thing you can do. That's something. I'm going to go ahead and increase our loop length one more time from 4 to 8. So now see our 4-bar loop is just half of our overall clip. Highlight everything we've done. Command D to duplicate it over. So now I've got an 8-bar loop, and I'm just going to put an extra clap and maybe take away that kick. So now we have a kick turnaround at 8 bars here, and then a clap turnaround, at 4 bars here, and then a clap turnaround at 8 bars. So it's going to sound like this. So at least we've got some variation there. One thing that could help is to add a few more like accent percussion notes. So let's see, maybe we'll find a little time. Open hi-hats are definitely going to come at some point. What else could we do? Oh, I like this rim shot. That over through the rest of our clip. Just that little click that happens right after that kick drum kind of pulls the beat in one direction or another and just gives it a little bit of feel. Now we have not gotten to the manual adjustments in timing and velocity, which we're going to do next, but accents can definitely help to give your beat a little bit of feel. Let's get to timing. One thing that you'll notice, like I mentioned earlier, what groove and swing are subtle variations in velocity and timing. So let's begin with timing. The kick drum generally is going to keep the time of the track. So we don't want to mess with the timing of the kick drum too much, but we can mess with the velocity of certain hits. Now everything else, yes, let's do it. So to highlight all of one hit, we can click over here on its note in the piano roll. I'm going to zoom in a little bit just to give us a little more to look at. Now I'm grabbing all of these snares because I highlighted them all here, and I'm just going to move them forward in space. I'm going to do the same to the clap here, and not have it hit right at the same time as the snare, but maybe a little before. This is going to create like kind of a flamming effect. That could be sort of interesting. And maybe we'll do the same with the rims, or maybe we'll move the rims up, right? Because those are kind of pulling towards the downbeat at this second measure. So let's see what we've done. You can see how far off the grid this is here. So I could have done things a little too drastically and they might sound weird, but hey, that's the point. All right, my idea to move forward the rim is sounding strange. So let's just make sure we have them all selected. Okay, that's somewhat groovier, I suppose. Our kick drum is pretty right on. I wonder what would happen if we moved that a little off grid as well. I'm going to highlight them all, just move them a tiny bit. starting somewhere. Now, let's think about editing the velocity. So this button right here is going to toggle off and on your little velocity markers. Any single MIDI note can be at a velocity of anywhere between 1 and 127. So you've got quite a bit of resolution when you're editing your velocities. One thing that's kind of tricky when editing MIDI is to know what note you're editing, because a lot of things will be hitting at the same time. So if you're here, you want to make sure that you're editing the thing, so in this case I want to edit the hats. I'm going to hover here. It's going to show that I'm editing the hats. Otherwise, I'm going to click here, my bass drum is selected, I hover here, and it tells me that I'm editing the velocity of my kick drum. So I think for these accent kicks, I want to take them down a little bit. I'm going to select this individual hit and bring it down quite a bit. And I'm going to do the same over here, and the same over here. And the point is that we are making this beat sound human. So it doesn't really matter if all of these ones that I'm lowering hit at the same value, right? Because the point is that it's irregular, because that's what a human would do. You know what I mean? Okay, there we go. I'm going to bring that down a tiny bit. And then we're going to do the same to these hi-hats. These hi-hats are just hitting at really high velocity, all at the same velocity. It sounds horrible. So let's work on these guys. Oh, they're all selected, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to individually edit the velocities of these guys. So this one's going to start at full velocity. We're going to go down and then maybe slowly ramp up. And then, yeah. So I'm going to just select all of these hi-hats, and I'm going to duplicate them across, and you'll see their velocities down here are getting copied over. So now we're getting some fun variation in velocity with our hi-hats, which I think is going to go a long way. We've got variation in our beat, and now we've got variation in our timing and our note velocity in both the kick drum and the hi-hat. Let's hear. Pretty good. These snares are, I think, just a tiny bit too swung. I'm going to bring them back just ever so slightly. Make sure they're all selected. Bring them back. Great. Hearing how that's starting to sound a little bit more sensible. Before we move on to the next section, I kind of want some open hi-hats here. Let's see if we can add some of those just for fun. The reason you're not hearing these is because they're already in a choke group with the closed hi-hats. What a choke group is basically tying two channels within this drum rack together, so when one's playing, the other gets silenced. This is a really good way to make your open and closed hi-hats sound like a real opening and closing hi-hat, because when a drummer plays a hi-hat, he can't play it open and closed at the same time. He plays it open, then he closes it with his foot. So choke groups are meant to emulate that. These appear to already be set up because I'm not hearing this open hi-hat at all. What I would have to do is take away the ones that it's playing over, and then you would hear it. I'm going to show you how to work with choke groups because it's kind of interesting. Here in our drum rack, we can expand this. and you have an individual channel for every one of your drums inside of your drum rack. So we've got to find our open hi-hat, which appears to be here. As you can see, some of these under choke, they say none, but open hi-hat, choke, group 1. Look at this, closed hi-hat, choke, group 1. So that's how we know that the closed and open hi-hats are in the same choke group. You can assign, I believe there's 16 available. Yeah, there's 16 choke groups available. So if you wanted any other drum hit to choke any other drum hit out, you could totally do that. But hi-hats kind of work the best. So it's going to sound now like this with these open hi-hats. Oh, but I forgot to get these guys out of the way. So they're choking out the open hi-hat. Oh, we've got this here. Now we're going to talk about using pre-made grooves, not pre-made beats, but just the grooves themselves. So again, a groove is a discrepancy in velocity or timing that doesn't correspond exactly to the grid. Ableton has made a ton of these things. There is a groove for virtually any rhythmic variation you could imagine. Some of them are pulled from other technology. Some of them are pulled from different genres. If you want to hear it, you can click on it and you can preview it. So with this little click, Ableton is trying to kind of give you an idea of what that groove is going to do. I like, for whatever reason, to use this one. That feels a little drastic. Let's go. I think this one will be good for us. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this because I want to use it, and I'm going to drag it down here into the Ableton Groove pool. Now, this is a zone where we can keep one or many grooves, and you can apply grooves on a per clip basis. So what that means is that this clip, just this clip, can have a distinct groove, but a different clip on, say, a different track might have a different groove. So you can have complementary grooves kind of intersect within a track, and then you also have control over all of these parameters of a groove, like basically how strong it affects your MIDI and what parameters it affects. So I'm going to go back to my MIDI clip, and I'm going to go down to this groove box, and I am going to just select this Swing MPC 3000 16ths 64 groove. It's in our groove pool, so it's going to show up here. Select it. Now, actually, to properly show you this, I'm going to go backwards a second. I'm not going to do that. And you know, we dragged all of these notes off of the grid. So I think what we should do is actually highlight all of them and re-quantize them. So I'm going to hit Command U. Did you see how all of those little notes snapped back to the grid? That's how we know they're on grid. And now we're going to go here. So let's play that back and hear it stiff again. With the groove we made. Stiff again. You can really hear it in the hi-hats. They just do not sound very fun the way the stuff under them is really snapped to the grid. So now we're going to go over here to our MPC swing. We are going to boost the quantize and the timing. We can give it a little bit of random. The bass interval or the bass division, let's say, is a 16th note. That's fine. Global amount. We'll take that down a little bit and hear what we've got. So quite swingy, you hear, you know? I'm going to increase these just a little bit more so you can really hear the most drastic effect. We're almost into shuffle territory there. So I'm going to dial this back, but I do that just to let you know how powerful this groove can be if you apply it in large amounts. Once you kind of train your ears to hear what a groove is doing, you better know how not to overuse it. So here's what we've got with our groove applied. Great. Now, grooves are preloaded in Ableton, which is wonderful, but maybe you've downloaded a different drum loop to work with, and you want to be able to use its groove. Well, guess what? You can. For example here, I'm going to create a new track, and I'm just going to resample the audio from this thing that we've made, except I am going to boost here the quantize and the timing quite a bit so we can hear it. I'm going to solo this, I'm going to arm this, and so basically I'm just going to record the outgoing audio onto a new audio track like this. Great. Sorry, 8-bar loop. It's heavily swung because the source, this MIDI, had quite a bit of groove on it. But let's take that groove away. I'm going to delete it from the groove pool. It's now no longer on this clip, but it is printed into this audio. So if we want to get this groove back, I'm going to zoom in to show you just like see how certain beats just aren't quite on the grid. This is a little ahead, this is a little behind. That's what a groove is. So I'm going to look at this piece of audio that we've just recorded. I'm going to control click. You've got a huge menu here. You're going to go to extract grooves. This takes a moment because it's analyzing all of the audio and extracting those variations. The longer the clip you extract a groove from, the longer it's going to take because it really is analyzing every piece of information from that entire thing. So 8 bars in this realm is actually kind of long. And it'll be interesting because the first 4 we have just those closed hi-hats, and then the second 4 we have the open ones, so it does change a little bit from here to here. So anyway, what this has done is taken the groove from here and placed it in our groove pool. It just named it the name of this track, which was automatically generated as track 9 audio. The clip is track 9 audio, and therefore the resulting groove name is track 9 audio. So we've got this groove. I can delete this track, and we've got the groove here. So if I wanted to reapply this groove to this bit of MIDI, which of course this bit of MIDI helped create the groove in the first place. It was this MIDI plus the MPC swing created a different groove that then we put into an audio, re-extracted, put back here, and now we're going to apply it there. Quantize, timing, play back our beat. Pretty good. So that is how you humanize your beats. Make sure to add accent hits. Make sure to double your loop length so that you can add turnarounds at 4 and 8 bars, manually shift your MIDI notes off of the grid if you want to, or use pre-made grooves in Ableton. Finally, if you hear a groove elsewhere that you want to use in your own track and you have an audio of that, you can just extract the groove and apply it. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn more about how to make music with Ableton Live, we have Open Studio Foundations. I will put a link in the description. Please subscribe if this helped you out, and we will see you again soon.